What's going on, guys? Thank you for being here. It is 8 o'clock on the East Coast Tuesday night. It's 7 o'clock here in today. I would call it a drizzly day in Minnesota, a typically fall day. I think the high was around 66 and rainy. I like to envision those drops of rain being little seeds of the wild mushrooms, the hen of the woods and chicken of the woods mushrooms should be. They don't bloom. What are they? They sprout, they spore, whatever it is. You guys, we didn't come here for a mushroom show. Thank you for being here tonight. We got Brandon NIxon on the show from NIxon Reptiles. Brandon's been on the show before, and we've become pretty good friends. He was an early supporter of the show and a really, how do I put it? I mean, down to earth, but really insightful and very intellectual guy to talk snakes with and talk business with. And the other great thing about Brandon is you get the full on opinion right away. There's no beating around the bush. There's no sugarcoating. So we're going to pick Brandon's brain tonight. We were chatting this week, which we often do actually. Like these shows aren't just, hey, come on and forget. Like these are relationships that get built. So Brandon and I were chatting this week and we realized we had both done a small market show, or maybe not a small market show, a small show on the same weekend that everybody else was doing Arlington. And I thought it'd be a funny kind of, who needs Arlington? Like, what was the quote from Yogi Berra? Nobody goes there because it's too crowded. For all the people that don't go to Arlington, we got your weekend update right here. So thank y'all for being here. I got to catch up on the comments here real quick. What's going on, everybody? If you haven't been here before, I want to say thanks if you're tuning in because of the connection to Brandon. I hope that you like it. My name's Adam. My brand is Proper Royals, and we do the show every night. I don't do it every night. I do it every Tuesday night, and I got a pretty good track record, 2+ years now. And same place, same time, and same format. So hope you'll consider hitting the like button if you start to enjoy it, and maybe you subscribe and stick around. So glad to have you. If I haven't seen you before, thank you so much for tuning in tonight, guys. Hello to everybody else, the usuals. I see some new faces though. This is cool. Ramery, I'm going to mess up your pronunciation. Ramery's Reptiles. I don't think I've seen you before. Cuddle Time Critters. We met at the metropolis that is Davenport, Iowa this weekend. Thanks for tuning in tonight. I trust you got home safely to Missouri. It was really cool to hang out and meet in person. Neurophi Exotics. Thanks for being here. I don't think I've seen you before. Jason, what's happening, man? Jason and I did some good business this week. So I don't know. I can't go through everybody. I will say hello to Jeremy, one of my fellow podcasters in crime. I'll be on Jeremy's show really soon. Jeremy, is that this Sunday night? I'm so behind. Put the date up there, whenever that is that I was gonna. Whenever I'm going to be on the show, I think it's October 1st, so that would be Sunday night. Anyhow, I'll be on Jeremy's show very soon. Okay, well, I was one off. All right, Raymer's second time stopping, and cheers for coming back, man. Thank you so much. And Patreon supporter Casey, thank you so much for being here too. I hope that you're doing well tonight. Last week, this is how crazy this like small world is, but also how like far reaching the small world is. So last week I was talking about a comment that I had seen that Bob Vu made on somebody else's post, not even on his own social media. And I said something to the effect of, well, Bob Vu said this, and then I made a joke like, well, Bob and I don't chat. It's not like he said it to me. I just saw that he said it. The next morning, last Wednesday, Bob messages me. He's like, well, we're chatting now. Like it's, I have no idea what reaches where. And I'm not saying that like there's some, well, there is a little bit of a cult of personality of anybody there is with Bob, but I'm not saying it because of that or because of the celebrity. We started chatting, and he's going to come do the show. I think it's the 17th. I've got to double check the date, but Bob is booked to do the show. And really what it inspired me to think of is just keep doing the right work. You don't know who's going to see you. You don't know what connections you're going to make. You don't know who's going to perceive what. And that was just kind of a cool thing, especially when a time when sales are hard, you're not sure if things are working right. All the topics I was talking about, is it overwhelming? Is it too much? Boom. Bob's like, hey, I like what you're doing, man. This is good stuff. So that's really kind of cool. So thanks, Bob. If you happen to be watching tonight, I appreciate it. And I'll see you in a couple weeks on the show. I will get the date right. Yeah, Jeremy. Okay. Jeremy is doing my weekend prep for me. That will be this Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern on Warfels Morphs. I will be there, and I will get you. I didn't really. October seemed like so far away. That's like next month problems. Well, yeah, it's 4 days away now. I owe him a picture for the thumbnail. So we're going to cover the Davenport, Iowa show. I did that one-day show Sunday, 5 hours there, 5 hours back. I will tell you all about it with Brandon here in a moment. Tinley's coming up. Like, speaking of October problems, that's only like 10 days away. I will be at the REDLINE shipping booth. Massive thanks to Robin Markland and the REDLINE team for hosting me at Tinley at the REDLINE booth. My understanding is, I've never been to Tinley. My understanding is we're right in the lobby, and that sounds pretty good, but I don't know if that's a good place to be or not. I will be there. We're going to be doing some live podcasting, whether it's the whole, like, live stream the whole thing, or I set up specific interviews. I'm not sure. I got to play that by ear and see what resources I'm working with as far as internet, connectivity, guests, what REDLINE will put up with me doing at the booth. I don't know. I say booth, the tables. You know what I'm talking about. I will be there. I'm excited to see everybody. And I can't believe I'm saying this. I kind of miss my old crew from Florida already. So I know I'll see some of you all there too. So I'm excited for that. I got some new clutches this week. I had one that I expected to be double het for pied hypo, and I'm pretty sure it popped out some hypos. They are cinnamon pewter combos though, so I'm not real sure. We're going to see. I did check with the breeder that produced this female that I have, and her mom, in the years since I bought her as a hatchling, has proven het hypo. So it's at least plausible. What was the Mythbusters thing to say? You had busted, you had plausible, and then you had what was it, proven or confirmed? We're still in the plausible. It's not eliminated. So those clutches are in Florida though. Like, big shout out to Justin at Pressure Pythons for hatching and watching my hatchlings. I think, I'm not trying to be difficult on this tease. I think I can do it on next week's show. A couple things have to fall in place, but I got a big announcement, a bit of a business endeavor that I've been cooking up now for a month and a half, 2 months, maybe even chatting about it a little bit longer. Very excited. This is a Minnesota-based product here. It is related to our industry. So I'll let you know all about it next week. Like I say, a few things have to fall in place, and I can't say anything just yet. So I believe we'll have everything ready this time next week. That's going to be my goal. So stay tuned for that. Arlington, anybody go to the Arlington show? Let me know. I got one person's feedback that I hold in very high regard. One breeder, he said it was a little bit slower, not nearly as many people through the door. And I'm guessing that translated to slower sales, because usually if somebody has great sales, they don't care what the door is, right? So I'm guessing that translated into a little bit slower sales. Would you guys hear about Arlington? Let me know. Luke, yes, I will be at the no, I'm on the wait list right now for the Des Moines, Iowa show, I believe. Hang on, I've got it right here. I know it's everybody's pressing question of when I will be in Des Moines. The Des Moines show on November 5th, I am on the wait list for. I'll give you my rundown here. I got Tinley the weekend of the 7th. I will be there. Then I'll be at the Show Me Snake show on the 21st in St. Paul, Minnesota. And then I'm doing a double header back to back since these are one-day shows. Why not? October 21st, that's the St. Paul, Minnesota one. And then October 22nd will be La Crosse, Wisconsin. That's from a promoter called Scaled Up Expos. I've never had any experience with Scaled Up Expos. So I'm getting my fill of all these. I don't know if they're small or big promoters. And I am on the books for some cold-blooded expos, but they sell out pretty quick. So I'm on the wait list for Des Moines. Hopefully I'll get into that. But if not, I'll see you all in Minneapolis at the Cold-Blooded Expo on the 19th of November. So if you need any of those details, let me know. I'm sure that was mostly gibberish to everybody else. So good evening. And yeah, I think that those are the announcements that I have. Yeah, that's it. So Brandon NIxon. Brandon, I don't remember. I have to ask Brandon if he remembers. He might. I don't remember the sort of the moment that we met via internet and this community and that sort of thing. But like I say, I know he's done my show before. And interestingly enough, Brandon is like either number 2 or number 3 guest with the highest views, at least clicks. I don't know about engagement and hours watched and all of that. I don't dive that far into the metrics, but Brandon's either number 2 or number 3 for the most views of a single episode on this show, which is pretty neat too. So anyhow, I finally got to meet Brandon this year in Daytona in person. Really great time. We had breakfast one morning, which is actually kind of a cool time to, breakfast isn't for most people anyway. Breakfast is not exactly the time where you're behaving like the night before at the auction, or you got into, vacation mode a little bit early. Now I'm talking like 7 a.m. at the diner, clear head, coffee, getting your day fill for breakfast. So I enjoy that little memory because most people aren't up and functioning at that time, or certainly not dialed in. So we got down to some morning business before I was vending. And anyhow, like I said, we were chatting this week. We chat often, and we discovered we both did some shows. So I said, hey, why don't you come on the show? So if you wouldn't mind, welcome back to the Proper Royals stage from Maryland, I believe the Baltimore area, but I'll let Brandon clarify that. From Maryland and from NIxon Reptiles, Brandon NIxon. Brandon, how you doing, man?
Doing all right. How are you doing?
I am good. Pretty good. I'd be better if I had a higher report to offer here shortly. But in general, I'm good. I'm tired. Things are in disarray. What you see behind me is the most organized in my whole house right now. Still moving in, still doing renovations, but I am good. I'm happy, and those are all good challenges. Like I don't get any of those problems unless life is really good. So I'm doing well. I'm thankful. So what's been going on in your world?
Yeah, those are definitely good problems to have.
Right.
And just in general, I'm sure it'll be, a little bit of an adjustment period, right? Going from being in Florida where there's presumably a very large reptile market just because of, everybody out there that keeps all the crazy things that Florida man keeps, and then now you're, in Minnesota where, it's obviously a big difference.
Yeah. I think we got a little tailwind here. That's a momentum analogy. Sometimes I make these comments. I'm like, nobody knows what you're talking about, Adam. I think there's a little support here. We got snake discovery in the neighborhood, so they're spreading the good word. Dave Kaufman's in the neighborhood. When I say neighborhood, I mean the greater Twin Cities metro area. And then JSA, Joe up at JSA is doing some really, really cool things. And then there's a fair amount of breeders sort of what I would say on my tier or in between myself and Joe. I mean, actually people like Taylor are doing all Taylor needs is time. His investments are just incredible of what he's got. So I think they're out there. I just got to find them, man. And I am the new guy in the marketplace for sure. I was definitely the new guy in Davenport this weekend.
That's good. I mean, it's also, a new face for people to see and people to, come to see. I mean, that's kind of how it is at our shows. I mean, we definitely recognize like, several people that we see every show, people that'll come and talk to us, every show. And, I feel like there's too many shows in this general area. But I mean, that just kind of is what it is.
I think I messaged you about, was it you that I was chatting with where I was like, I can't get my head around the economics of all of these shows. Did we have that conversation or not? Maybe it was somebody else.
We very well could have. I mean, yeah.
Well, if either way, we'll have it right now. I'm going to share the screen. Hang on. Let me, just since it came up, this is off the cuff here. There's so many shows, and what I can't figure out is, are these promoters just stubborn enough or making enough money because okay, I don't have permission to share the screen. No big deal. Are they making money just because of optimistic / naive breeders that will pay the tables? Like I was trying to do the math the other day and figure out what made sense and why they would do so many. Or is it just because the local economy is so good and the market is so good on demand? I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like some of these places, they're very established, at least out here, right? There's some very established shows. Like I know we have like the Repticon shows, which I don't really go to those. We went to one. It was like a while ago because I had to drop off some displays for someone that was getting my old displays, and we like walked inside and it was like pretty empty overall. But you figure the promoter, whoever puts the show on, right? You figure they're charging like $50-$75 for these little shows. They, per table, they get so many vendors in there. I mean, that adds up pretty quick. And I'm sure that in itself probably covers at least the cost to rent out the venue.
Yeah.
And a lot of the ones here are like 1-day shows. There's very few 2-day shows.
That's what I'm seeing up here too.
So there's those. And then like the one that we did just this past weekend, it's a very small show, which isn't, I mean, it's kind of a bad thing, but it's not the worst thing because the majority of people that go there are actually there because they like reptiles. Versus, and this is the Williamsport show in Maryland. I mean, there's like literally probably like, I don't know, 20 or 30 vendors at best.
Okay.
So it's not stacked by any stretch. Now you have like the Gettysburg show, which is like a huge show. And you get a ton of people that walk through there, but every person that comes up to the table and you ask like, what are you working with? What are you into? What kind of species do you keep? Whatever. There's definitely a fair amount of people that are just like, oh, I seen the sign and figured we'd come on by, or something like that, which is like, it's like you get people like that are potentially interested in the hobby. I mean, shoot, I gave my business card to one of my patients I seen today.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They came in and we were just talking and they said something about like, oh, yeah, I just need my animals. And I'm like, yeah, I feel you there. Yeah. Like, oh, like what kind of animals do you got? And I was like, I got a lot of snakes. And they thought it was cool and their kid was with them and stuff. And, so we started talking about it and they were like, I want a snake, and, their mom was like, kind of on the fence about it. Like they didn't dislike them, but they don't want a snake for themselves. But if their kid wants one, it's a possibility. But so I gave them my card, told them about the show, and you never know. I mean, that's all it takes, right? Is some kid to come in and, all of a sudden they're, everyone started somewhere, as far as their interest level in reptiles or dinosaurs or, whatever the case is. So,
yeah, I think there's a lot of value in that mindset and almost to a person whenever we do hear of a slow show, which we'll get to details in a second on at least on my end of it. It always sounds like a pep talk after a bad show to say like, well, I made good connections and I talked to people and this and that. What you just said, or as another example, that whole thing, my little intro story about, how I came to interact with Bob Vu this past week. You just never know how you connect with somebody. I had somebody message me yesterday from the show. It was another vendor. And, it was very kind of them. I'm happy to say who the vendor was. House of Hiss is their name. they messaged me. That's Dan and Quinn. Dan messaged me and he says, you know what, Adam? It was a tough show all day for all of us, but you're the only one I saw there that didn't start breaking down and stayed completely open the whole time. And I'm not saying, so that's a fool's errand. Spoiler alert, I did 0 revenue on Sunday. So that was on that instance.
I got you beat slightly.
Oh yeah. Wait, you got me beat at lose it? Like you lost like you gave stuff away, or you made just a little bit more than 0?
I made a little bit more than 0.
Okay. All right. So, well, then you're going to win then. But it was cool because, like I say, I was just, that goes back to my restaurant days. Bartenders would be like, it's slow, it's empty, we're going to close. I'm like, if it says we're open till 9 o'clock on the door, if somebody drives here at 8:50 one night and we're closing up, the next time at 8:50 that they're looking for a drink, they're never going to come here. So I also think like your body language gives off signs that you don't want to do business anymore if you're breaking down. So I'm like, what's it going to save me? 10 minutes? My whole breakdown is like 20 minutes. So it's no big deal anyway. But I had no idea that of all the things, for Pete's sake, I'm wearing a custom embroidered chef coat. Of all the things that stood out, he was like, your work ethic and determination, even in a really poor setting, was really good. So I took, first off, it was nice to hear. It was a nice compliment. But again, the point being, you never know how you're going to interact with somebody and if you're going to, what impression that's going to make, or how that translates to how they think I take care of my snakes or whatever it might be, Oh
yeah, totally.
Let's see. I always like hearing Charlie's input. He says, the vendors are the customer in this relationship. I don't do the shows, but I watch the dynamics of begging for tables, etc. It's confusing to me. Yeah. Okay. So in the slowness of the show, here is what I was able to sort of put together in my mind. Brandon, to your point, I paid $50 for a table and I paid for 2 tables. And there were, I would say, let's just say 30 vendors. It wasn't a huge show, but I think there was 30 vendors in the room. And I don't know, let's say they average, 1.5 tables a piece. So what's that? $75 times 30 people, a little with $2,300 that they made on the vendors. So what I wonder is, let's just round it up to 25. 25, they probably paid, I don't know, Sunday afternoon, a banquet hall. I would think they paid $750, but let's just say they paid $500 for the banquet hall. So there's $2,000 before they pay their man and their guys behind the scenes. That seems like a lot of work if you're not getting people in the door. The door there,
even like the small shows. I mean, like the one that we did was fairly small, but I mean, I would imagine. Definitely wasn't standing there with a people counter or nothing like that. But you figure they're charging like $5-10 a person to get through the show. You know what I mean? And it's like, what? Like, let's say 100 people, come through at $5 a piece. That adds up pretty quick.
It does.
So it's pretty interesting math, and it's usually always cash, just like in Daytona. The people in Daytona, they're making a grip over there.
Now, well, that's the Daytona's a different story.
$20 a pop and cash only. Like, they got their thing figured out.
Oh yeah. Well, I've heard the price to buy the brand. This is all speculation. Nobody come sue me. I've heard the price to buy the Daytona show is $3 million, which is a little bit weird because there's nothing. So somebody else could go put the very same show on the next weekend. So, I mean, it's all the relationships. Like there's nothing proprietary is what I'm saying. You can call up the Ocean Center and so it's the relationships with the Hilton, it's the relationships with the breeders, all the panache that's gone into it. But so to continue, I don't know. Cuddle Time was in the audience here. I think there was maybe on the high end, 150 people through the door. And I would say probably more likely 80 to 100. And I think this is total speculation now. I have less to base this on than anything else I've said tonight. I think in that whole room, there was maybe of like economic cash flow. I think that there was maybe $10,000 that moved in that whole room. which that's a difficult selling point. Like the math starts to get really, really tough for me on how
Whether
that makes
the
sense.
show's worth it to do or anything. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, worth it for me becomes, the easy answer is no. I mean, I drove 5 hours each way, got a hotel room, blah, blah, blah. On the other hand, and actually Cuddle Time is who it was, she drove 5 hours from Missouri, and she said she passed up doing a show in Missouri because this one usually could be pretty decent. This is the crazy town of shows. You have some that are great and home run hits, and I've done more in revenue than what I think Show Me Snakes made at this show putting it on. And then I have other weekends of zero that is just, you chalk up to a business expense and go on. So break down for us. What was your experience this weekend? And how'd you do, if you care to share?
I mean, the show itself, well, first off, I remember in your little intro thing, you were talking about like Arlington and stuff and people, like how people were doing and stuff. And I know like, so in Bob and Josh, like they have like a little co-owned Patreon.
Yep.
And they actually do like a breakdown of their sales and stuff
I have
like
heard that. Yeah.
And, they did. I mean, I won't say they did amazing in comparison to like what they would do in Daytona or Tinley, but I certainly would not be upset whatsoever if I went and did a show and made what either of them made or some of the other members that vended there. It's safe to say more than $10,000 was floating around and, in the show.
Oh yeah. I did mean to give the caveat earlier that the person that I heard Arlington was slow from probably still did 25% of what I'll do this whole year in revenue, would be my guess. I still bet I bet that they got into the 5 figures, if not well into the 5 figures this weekend. So it is all relative. Yes.
And so I just mentioned that to say that, like, whenever we were down in Daytona, we got to spend a lot of time with like Brock and Winston and those guys. And, we were talking about shows quite a bit because obviously we're at a reptile show. And, Brock was basically saying that the reason why, we haven't done a great show or had a great show is overall because, we haven't done like a big show. And that's very possible. But I also am in the position to where I don't really think that I have the animals for doing a big show. I think this coming season, I'll be in a better spot as far as producing a bunch of stuff that would be really good to bring to a larger show.
Yeah. So, I kind of get into my own head over that. And it's weird because at this show, this Davenport, Iowa, actually somebody came and said to me, it's going to be tough. Your snakes are too nice for this show. And I was like, man,
you're like the weird insult, but thanks.
Yeah. I go to Daytona and like people think that somebody called my snakes soccer mom snakes. And then I go to Davenport, Iowa, and I'm told that it's too, I'm like, man. And I think, I did okay in Daytona. But when I say okay, I've done more in Tampa, Orlando, and Jacksonville shows than I did in Daytona. So there is a little bit of a where's the sweet spot and who's the customer that you're selling to. I don't really know what more I could scrape the barrel, the bottom of the barrel with and expect to go to a show if somebody thought that my snakes were too nice. Like I almost wonder, are people taking this proper thing too far? Am I building in a weird intimidation that I don't mean to? Like, it's partly tongue in cheek. I'm wearing a chef's coat for Pete's sake,
See, and I think for most of that stuff, it might just be the amount of competition, right? So it's like, I think, for one, like, I relate it to like, I guess like my Instagram, right? Where I have like all my little well-polished videos and all that. And it's like, and I feel like sometimes that might make me come off as like unapproachable for whatever reason, but I have tons of conversations with a bunch of different people. But you have to like think about it, right? Like if you know, like for instance, Bob, right? Since he's coming on the show, I mean, Bob and Josh, they put together like, I don't know, 13 tables or something.
Right. Oh yeah.
Like,
I always
they
joke they
take
have
up,
radios.
yeah, they take up like a whole like island, quite literally, in Daytona. And I know they do the same exact thing in Tinley.
Yep.
In a prior podcast or interview type thing that Bob did, he mentioned how he stopped going to the Atlanta Repticon, and it actually did way better for the other people that were going there, because now other people that are in a more pet category or whatever else, now they can bring their stuff. I know we jokingly were talking about like moving some Candinos this weekend,
Right.
and I had some mild success with that.
How many did you move?
Uh, well, technically 2.
Okay.
But so I did, so just like to I guess go to that is, so we only had one sale, and it was someone who was like, is leopard really worth it in clown? And then I just pulled out a picture of like this awesome little baby leopard clown, and they were like, yeah, it's worth it. And then they asked like what I had. I was like, well, I got like these down here, because he seemed like a male. And I was like, oh, well, I got like a female leopard hat clown too. And that's what he wanted. And he like, and I had it for pretty cheap. You know, I had it for like $100. And he was like, will you do less? And I'm like, damn, you know, like,
yeah,
I don't know. It is what it is. But like, it's just, you know, if you think about it, right? Like, he's basically asking me to knock 25% off of my price.
yeah.
And for me, like, I more specifically just wanted to have less animals coming home with me than I left with.
Yeah.
You know, which leads me to the kind of on the Candino thing. Is there was another guy who I was talking to, and he was a pretty cool guy. Like, he had a lot of different things going on, and definitely some projects that aren't necessarily for me.
Was he a
But
vendor or a customer?
I mean, I think like his girlfriend or friend or something was like vending, so he was helping her out, and
Oh, okay.
he had a couple of animals on his table and stuff. And
fair enough. Okay.
you know, he was just eyeballing like all these like normals that I had on my table, which were a bunch of just various things, you know, that I was putting up there for, you know, move out some numbers kind of thing. And I'm actually surprised that none of those sold, because I had those at definitely pet prices, and they were, you know, they were just there, you know. And it's like, you know, they didn't go anywhere, but he liked a couple of them, so we worked out a deal for a couple of those. He ended up getting a genetic stripe het candy male and a Candino het genetic stripe female. You know, so we did a kind of a trade deal. So I got a trio of blue-eyed leucisticus from him.
Okay.
You know, so and I'm like highly debating whether or not it's worth it to grow up those females and get a different male to produce, you know, my own clutches of blue-eyed leucisticus, because, you know, I know Stephen and Courtney, we talked, they also had a show this weekend, and they did considerably better than both of us.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, and I know that they have and do bring quite a few pet quality or pet value animals, not quality, because the quality is always great, but pet value animals, and they do pretty good. And I think that was probably the most discouraging thing about this show, and probably every other show that I've done, is that I've gone there with delusions of grandeur and the thoughts that I'm going to end up moving at least the pet valued stuff.
Right.
You know, like, I would like to think it's like, hey, like, you know, the displays look good, the animals look good. Like, I talk to probably way too many people. I probably like carry on conversations for way too long, because it's like, what else am I going to do if they're just standing there looking at my stuff?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
You
I
know?
mean, you got to try. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, I'll just spend way too long talking to the person that just, you know, basically just, you know, is there for like their grandkid or something, and has zero aspiration to get like a snake. But again, they're there. And then it's weird if I just like, you know, give them a, hey, what's up? You know, like, I don't know. But I definitely thought that, like, we've done, I actually think this is our worst show, funny enough, as far as like actual sales go, because every other one we've done at least like a sale or two, which has been like, 100, like one was like, I think our first show we did like, I don't know, $150. And then we did
Right.
like 250 one time. And then we did like $600 one time. And then the best we've ever done, I think, was like 1,200. And most of that was one boa that sold.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last show we did, which was a Gettysburg show, we sold a singular genetic stripe for, I think, like $150.
Yeah.
And then this show is the one, and we sold the one leopard het clown for like $80 or something, and the show cost was $60.
Yeah.
So, between us picking up coffee and like a breakfast sandwich on the way in, I mean, it's definitely a negative. It's not like we made any form of actual like positive revenue going to the show, but
So,
it's that part's rough.
Did you see? So I think there's two ways to look at it. One, you said, I think I don't remember the exact words you used to talk about it being disheartening. Was there money in the room and you just didn't get a slice of it? Or do you think that it was just a dead room? Like, maybe I'm making excuses and maybe I'm lying to myself. That room,
I think it's option two.
Yeah, that room I was in this week was dead. There was no money in the room.
Yeah, I think it's overall just the area and the demographic. Now, I will say that there were like a couple of just like random people that came by and like, one guy was like, oh, like, no sunsets this time. Because it's like I usually have like a sunset to show. And it's like, didn't really feel like bringing it. I mean, going to the shows in general, there's a certain amount of risk that you're putting on.
Right.
And that in itself also is kind of a deterrent for going to shows and doing shows, because you have to, at least I quarantine everything after I get back from a show. Like I make sure that like I pre-treat everything. I pre-treat the displays. I pre-treat my tablecloth. I do all that stuff. And then, going to the show, if someone puts their grimy little fingers on my table, like all these little kids, I immediately go over there and I wipe that spot down.
Yeah, you got to spray it and clean it. Yep.
Like I'm not going to risk, the whole collection or whatever else and over that. And that's the part where it gets disheartening. And there's certain things, and it kind of sucks because a couple of buddies that I know do the same show, and one guy also sold the first snake he sold at a show, and he's done like 5 or 6 of these things. So again, the shows around here kind of suck. They're over. There's too many shows. For God's sakes, I mean, this weekend there was a Repticon the same weekend, so there was 2 shows going on.
So
this
they're
weekend
head to head.
in the same area. So there's oftentimes like multiple shows, going on per month, and overall the demographic in like the western part of like Maryland is not exactly high. You'd probably have a higher demographic as far as like income goes, like more towards the shows that are in the Baltimore area.
Yeah.
But I'm also not trying to pay whatever the table costs are for that, drive an hour, which is obviously nothing, but all to do that just to also make $0 and waste like a weekend.
Yeah.
Which is why the thought of like those bigger shows, like getting into a Tinley or a St. Louis or whatever, it's like, it's intriguing to me. And I think we would do better if we have the right animals for that. But the money investment for driving there, the hotel, like all the other things to get up there, you're talking about like I would have to make a couple $1,000 before it's worth it,
right? For it to make sense. Yeah.
And in the same token, I could sit on Morph Market and like I have like I only have like 2 or 3 of 2023 clutches posted there now. I've just been slacking because the other stuff I have that I would post right now is also like Candy and Candino stuff. And it's like, I already have that up there, and it's, and it's not necessarily it's not really selling, but overall, I think that's Candinos take a little bit of time to color up. So
yeah,
it's not quite laziness. It's more, I'm waiting for them to get a little bit more purple before I take photos, and the basic idea that those are going to be more enticing to the people, because Candinos and candies are, they're nice. They're colorful. They've got deeper colors from an earlier age than lavenders. But they don't have the same yellows and brightness as like some of the lavender and dreamsicle stuff does.
Yeah. I think that I really enjoyed candy. And I'm trying to move my candinos out and try and keep everything candy. So I've got my candy separated from the candinos, and all the straight albinos now are gone. Yeah. We had a question earlier, upstate New York morphs. Yeah, again, context is really important to these conversations. So for curiosity, he says, what's the price point at these shows? I can tell you, probably at the Davenport show, I don't know. There probably was a more expensive snake in the room than what I had, but my most expensive snake was $1,500 on my table. And the vast majority of mine are from 300 to 700 is that kind of sweet spot of my customer base, or where I do the best. In Daytona, I had the same snakes. My most expensive snake was $1,500. And the guy 2 booths down from me, now I don't think he sold any, but he had a snake on his table marked for $22,000. I'm not going to say what it was because people would know who I'm talking about, because I would be followed up with, I think it's laughable that he had it marked at 22,000. So I'm just going to leave that alone. But that was what it was marked at. And
I'm not selling at price.
Yeah. Well, I got in trouble last time I brought this topic up because somebody in the audience called me out immediately. They're like, "Oh, you're talking about so-and-so." I was like, "Okay," and time for me to shut up now. So I'm going to let it be.
But I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway. But there were, let's see, there was some DGA Xanthics, I think that factually did go for either 20 or 25,000. I think exchange hands.
Brock picked one up from Bob.
From Bob, yeah. And I know George had some on his table, George MD, but I think his weren't for sale. Although a suitcase of 25 grand might change anybody's mind. Who knows in person? So I would have I'd have to think about it. I have to say,
be hard pressed for me to say no.
I would be highly enticed. And then, yeah, so I don't know. Luke was talking about Iowa shows, saying that, kind of that $600 to $1,000 range is the highest end. So, I mean, I feel like I was in the market. I mean, my cheapest snakes were marked at $100, but truth be told, I would have let those. Honestly, if somebody bought one and there was a kid whose eyes lit up, I would have given them the other one. I mean, those were the don't want to take them home snakes.
Oh no, yeah. I quite literally probably would have given some of the ones I had to people, because I brought I have 20-ish like male of various hets that I produced last year that I should have wholesaled like last year right after I produced them.
Right.
And I still have them, and I've been feeding them for a year now. And
right.
And it's like I gladly would have just if someone like I really do wish there was like a program for like biology school teachers or something where you could just like join it up and be like, hey, like if you want a nice classroom pet, I got you covered. Just take care of the shipping costs and it is yours.
Yeah, there's
that would be an awesome program.
Yeah, I had some guitars that were just entry level beaters. They were going to cost me more time and effort to try and sell and haggle over, $80 and maybe make 20 on the deal. And that's what I found a school. I was like, if you guys will put these to use and get instruments in a kid's hands, take them, it's yours, have it, Oh, cool. Kelly, this guy, Kelly, there were bright spots. There were people that were like, hey, it's good to meet you in person. Welcome to the Midwest. Kelly was one of them. There's a couple other people, but that was pretty cool. I don't know if you saw Cuddle Time Critters. She said she did $25 total. So 2 of the maybe 30 vendors, we did a total of $25. And her display is much bigger than mine is. It was a very good display. It wasn't like, we were just sitting on our thumbs and, with 30 displays and mites. That's not the case. I will say to Show Me Snake's credit, they came around and they did. I don't know how thorough or legit it was, but they inspected my animals and wanted to see, had the pen light, the flashlight up close on it and all that. So let me see. Upstate New York says, okay, were there others running sales on their stuff in addition to these prices? I don't know. I'm not, first I run my table alone. So I don't walk the room very much. And I didn't know this crowd. It wasn't like, the cool thing about the Florida scene is usually on the 2-day shows, Saturday night, a bunch of us go out and you might have a table of 20 people sitting there all having this conversation at the same time. And you start finding out what's working, what's not, who's doing what, who's undercutting prices, blah, blah, blah. I didn't get any of that, but there was just so little action in that room, though. It just wasn't, this wasn't the weekend for it. I have no idea if something else was going on in town. I don't know if there's a different, there's regional economies too. Maybe there's a harder hit situation in Davenport. Maybe it's just that it is a smaller market. I mean, Minneapolis, Twin Cities area has about 3 million people in the metro area. I don't know what that number is in Davenport, but I would be surprised if it's 10% of that, so all of those things. But you got to get, I still hold true to, you got to get out there and go experience it. And you never know when somebody who goes, oh, wow, Adam did remember seeing me, goes, you know what, I'm going to check out Adam's stuff when he's got something to sell. So I think it's valuable. It's just, I don't know what it is. It does make it hard, to your point, Brandon, where you're going, in this vacuum, I did all this work in this day, in this moment, and the number is 0 or very close to 0. That's a frustrating thing.
Yeah, if I continue to do any of the local shows around here, it will gravely depend on how well or unfortunate we do at the November show that we're doing in Gettysburg.
And that one's pretty sizable. Is that right or not? It
is, but it's a lot of and I'm fine with window shoppers by all means, do what you got to do. The last time I went to any reptile show with the intent of purchasing anything was probably back in 2011.
Oh, okay.
That was the last time, because I mean, honestly, man, it's like and at that time I was heavily into boas. Like, I went there and technically I wasn't even really intending to purchase anything. I had already pre-purchased something and I still had to pay the guy a couple grand more for what I was getting. So it was more or less actually just paying off what I was getting, in cash versus sending it electronically or whatever.
Yeah.
So I went to the show, I picked up what I got, and that's the last thing I picked up at a show. Previously to that, I picked up some Anery longicatas, and this is back in 2004, and then in 2002 or 3, I picked up some het albino ball pythons. It's historically, I have not been a person that has purchased animals at a show. I much more prefer the online situation. And most of the time when I see something that I want, I either reach out and see, what the situation is, either, if it's something I need to do a payment plan for, if something that I can just get outright, what an outright purchase price is, because there's definitely a different purchase price for higher end animals if you're buying them outright versus a payment plan.
Right.
And then, and then also, if there's certain people that are open to trades, or if I know them and it's if I think I got something they might be interested in and it works out for both people, then, sometimes that would be an option too. But I just find, and I'm honestly impressed that some people do so well at some of these shows because of the presence of Morph Market and other situations as far as online purchasing, because you have so many assets like Instagram, like YouTube,
right,
that you can use as a sales funnel to, basically find customers and find people, find animals that you yourself are interested in.
Yeah.
I mean,
several of us, we could do a whole show on online versus in person and the benefits of both. you're right about the reach and you're right about the outlets. But I do hear a lot of people say they like the certainty of seeing the animal in person, looking the other person in the eyes, that sort of thing. And to your point, once I had 2 to 3 shows in Florida under my belt, I was doing great, man. I would wake up and be like, man, I got a weekend off. I need a show, man. Like it was good. It was good revenue, man. In July, I don't remember how many shows I didn't do more than 2, and I might've only done 1 in July. But what I find is being present at the show causes people to look on those other platforms you're talking about, Morph Mark and Instagram. And in July, I flirted with 5 figures. And if you had told me I could ever sell 5 figures worth of snakes, much less in a month, this year, obviously I had plans to do well into 5 figures, but I just couldn't believe it. And so it's
a hell of a month.
Yeah, it was really good. And I was like,
sign me up.
Yeah, I didn't quite quit my job, but I was damn sure like, man, this keeps up. I will have a very, very
upgrade our brand of ramen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, baby, the 99-cent days are over. We can have $2 ramen. But I also have to remember that's less than 90 days removed. We're 75 days from the end of that month. So, it's these ups and downs that are hard to ride, and I am profitable this year, but I'm sort of on the cusp of profitability because of, you guys could probably hear the drills and stuff behind me. I'm doing a lot of infrastructure upgrades. The move was very expensive. I've invested a lot in snakes this year. So everything is still right there versus like having, like in life, when you have a savings account, you're like, okay, I can ride out some of these ups and downs in economy. And that's where I'm at in life. But in this business, the ups and the downs are just, they're kicking my butt right now, man. So anyhow.
Oh no, I'm with you. And I think before I get into that, I think the shows are great specifically for lower end animals that are within a pet range. And that number ranges for a lot of people, but I would think somewhere north of like $500 plus or minus a few, that's like what I would probably consider a higher end, because I mean, snakes are definitely a luxury item as far as a pet.
Oh, at the prices,
animal goes.
Yeah.
But you figure like a pretty, pied or whatever else, a couple $100, you add a couple other things to it, you're talking like in the 500s. I mean, they're very beautiful animals for very affordable prices. And I think having those animals at the shows is that's where the benefit is for the shows. And that's why I would like to continue to do them. But going forward, I would be looking more into doing the shows that, I was mentioning, going for shows in Arlington, although that's like an 18-20 hour drive or something. But St. Louis is a 10-hour drive. Tinley Park is a 10-hour drive. Like, those are pretty reasonable for a nice little 4 or 5 day stay. Just bring a couple heating panels or something and put the snakes on those in the hotel room and call it good. Like they'll be fine. So I don't know. But infrastructure stuff. Yeah, so you're telling me, man. I'm like, ARS has their little sale going on right now for their 5540.
Oh man, yeah. I can't even look, man.
I'm gonna pick up another 5540 because I don't need it necessarily, because there's definitely adults that I should move on and like let other people use them for things that they need or want.
Yeah.
But it would probably be in my best interest to have another 5540 just in case. And then I'm also planning to get another mini 130. So at the end of the day, so at the end of the day, that would put me at, what is it? 40, 80. It would put me at 150 adult ball python slots, and it would put me at 320 baby slots.
Yeah.
Which 320 baby slots, it sounds like a lot, but that's 45 clutches of 7 babies,
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
like, so if I try to say, hey, I'm going to produce 50 babies this year or 50 clutches this year, I know that I have the floor space for 50 clutches.
Yeah. 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 Having all those pieces in place, the incubator that can handle the right amount of eggs, the slots for the babies. Phil says always good to build infrastructure. Yeah, I have seen and heard, and maybe this will catch up with me too, because I tend to be pretty tight on spending. But people buy stuff, or excuse me, people are breeding and they breed themselves. What's the expression? Outkick their coverage. They outbred their infrastructure.
Yeah, they outbred their business. Yeah.
Yeah, and that can really be a problem. So, I have to say thanks to Beast Morse. I know Beast has been at this a long time and a long supporter of the show. Thanks. It's good to hear that sometimes. I don't know why it won't let me show the comment. Okay, well, I'm just going to read it. I can't get it to show it, but there it is.
I'm seeing it anyway.
Oh, okay. That could be have a little lag on my end. Then you're in the growing phase. If you're profitable, then you're doing fine. Yeah, I appreciate it. It's good. It's good to hear that stuff. Because we all know, and I'm not the only one, we all put in a lot of work at this, and we all probably stare at the ceiling some nights going, what the hell am I thinking? This is crazy, right? Josh, that's a good point. That is a good point. My strategy is to limit growth by not having a ton of space. I'll tell you.
I have a lot of space, so.
Yeah. My biggest fear in buying this house, and this is not some sort of like humble brag, it's not my point here. It's a very big house. I'm a lucky man. I am terrified because my wife and I will fill this house with all kinds of stuff. It's twice as big as the last place that we moved from, and that place was half as big as the place we lived in before. So we'd already downsized, and I saw the amount of stuff we accumulated. And I'm terrified we're going to do it here. But from a business standpoint, I'll tell you, there's a really, really good value to staying lean, literally limiting your overhead. That will limit your figurative financial overhead. To veer way off the track, I worked for Ruby Tuesday for 10 years. About halfway through my time tenure with Ruby's, they stopped building mall units and they stopped building the big freestanding units. And they went to, we called them train cars. They built these sleek, small units that had very little extra space and were run very, very efficiently. We called it lean. Everything out of place. And it was all about turnover, getting people in and out, and maximizing every square inch. And I remember that those stores only had to do about $17,000 a week to stay open and stay profitable. Now that was in the very early 2000s. So those numbers don't really mean much anymore. But I could tell you, when previous to that model in a mall store, if you weren't doing $2.5 million a year, which is, that's $50,000 a week. The expectation in a mall store is to do $50,000 a week, and these train cars could get by if they only did $17,000 a week. So don't sell yourself short on that plan, Joshua, excuse me. While we have a moment to take a deep breath, we're an hour in. There's 60 of y'all watching. Thank you so much. I think it's an opportune time to pay some bills and say thanks to a couple people. I got to say huge thanks to REDLINE Shipping. Obviously, they're a sponsor here. Use the promo code PROPER5. You're going to get $5 off your next shipping label. I know a lot of you have probably used that up, burned it up.
I have my little stack of stickers on my desk too.
There it is. REDLINE has been very, very good to me, very good to the industry, in my opinion. What I will tell you is I was a customer of theirs before I ever was in business with them. I'm a believer in the product. I like their experience. Their customer service is fantastic. And I would be remiss, or it might even sound like a conflict of interest, if I didn't acknowledge they are putting me up at Tinley this weekend. I'll be hanging out with Robin at the REDLINE Shipping table right in the lobby at Tinley. Come by, come say hey. I'd love to meet you, but also give them some business. Check them out. REDLINE Shipping, Proper5 promo code. Likewise, Cold Blooded Cafe. I like frozen thawed rodents, and I do believe, and I have always used Cold Blooded Cafe's rodents because I believe that they're the best. It's probably more details than anybody wants to know, but having been in a kitchen and smelling raw meat, frozen meat, thawed meat, and the associated animals, I think it's my belief the Cold Blooded Cafe does it the best as far as freshness and safety on the animals, on the prey that they sell. Promo code proper10, you're going to get 10% off of your order. That's a big, that could be a stack of jack right there. 10% off. Those add up quickly. So check them out. Proper 10, Cold Blooded Cafe. Next up, B and S Reptilia. Chris is a great dude. He's been a longtime supporter. Very, very first or longest running sponsor. I think he's the very first, but certainly longest running sponsor on the show. I'm incredibly thankful for him. And I would also be remiss. He's literally putting me up in Tinley and putting up with me. I'll be crashing with Chris at Tinley. Come hang out. Chris specializes certainly in ball pythons, but colubrids, boas, locality boas, blood pythons, and a variety of other animals. Reptilia is in the name for a reason. He has all kinds of different species. Check out Chris. Last but not least to tell you about tonight is Keith out at Creative Genetics. I actually talked to him this afternoon on the phone. Keith has coming to market. He's just waiting for him to shed. He's got a whole clutch of stranger combos. Every one of those are possible triple het as well. I lost track after everything he was telling me. I believe it was VPI Clown Pied, possible triple that he bred this stranger with and got stranger combos. There are other codoms in there. All of those people, you could check out their information and their links down below in the description. And all sales pitching aside, these folks make this show possible, allow me to bring this content each week, because otherwise I'd have to be doing something else to fund this business and this lifestyle that I lead. So please take care of these folks. If you would like to advertise with me or be a sponsor, come talk to me. I also have the Proper Cup of Joe show on Thursdays, wide open on sponsors. You know what? You could be the big fish in a small pond there. Let me know. Brandon NIxon, he is from NIxon Reptiles. His information is also down below in the description. And I highly recommend you check out his inventory, what he has available, both over on Morph Market, but also check out his productions on Instagram. Really high and visually wonderfully attractive. And I'm going to try and stay on topic because I don't want to go down different roads, but we could do an episode on just your production that you put, the quality that you put into your production, man, second to none. I mean, like I said, I don't want to dive into it other than saying kudos to you on that, but it was a really good,
much appreciated.
Well worth checking out, man. Definitely worth checking out. Oh yeah, Kelly says he's got to get a Proper Royals t-shirt at Tinley. Definitely. I do have shirts for sale. I can ship them, all that good stuff. While we're talking about links, my link tree is down in the description. So there's the sales pitch. Thanks for listening. Take care of those folks. Brandon, what if we switch our topics? I think we pulled apart shows and feelings on that. It's coming up to be breeding season, and I know a lot of people breed year round, and in some ways I still am pairing from this past year, but the traditional breeding season, and where we come up, where we readjust our pairing plans or finalize our pairing plans heading into the colder months. When we were talking, we both kind of brought up like, well, I haven't done the pairing yet. Should we be doing that? And my thought was, well, more what goes into the psychology, the strategy, the philosophy of it. And it occurred to me too, as I was making the thumbnail, that requires a little bit of guessing on the future market. So that's where the third topic came in, but we'll roll those two together, the future market guessing and your breeding strategy. So with that sort of setup, what goes into your mind, and what's your outlook when it comes to your planning this year?
Well, so for last year, there was definitely stuff that I put together because I needed to produce something from it.
Okay.
Like just in the sense of like, I had a bunch of like albino type things, and I, had my like Candino my Candy G-stripe male. So it's like, I wanted to get something from those productions. I mean, I've raised them up for as long as I have.
Right.
I needed to get something out of those projects. And,
gotcha.
After the season, I do plan on moving those projects out. And it's not for any reason of disliking the animals. I actually just really love the look of candies. I mean, I could pull out a candy right now and the thing is just stupid looking. Like I really can't handle how like nice they are. They're so
Right.
they're so nice.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't make sense that they're not infinitely more popular than they are.
Right.
But it does come down to space. And while I do have a lot of space, I do have, I don't want to expand it out of the room that I'm presently in.
Yeah.
So what I have to do is I have to do the recycling. It's like I have to take animals that, that I have, enjoyed, and I've done the things that I needed to do with them. And then I need to move them on to somebody else who wants to carry on some vision or has their own vision of their own. And that way I can properly allocate the space within the room for other projects that are more demanding of my space or my time. Like I have, basically for my albino type animal, I want to focus more heavily on the ultramel stuff because I'm very heavily involved in the ultramel stuff, which, just a little pitch for Charlie, he's been mentioned on the show several times. His genetic testing and stuff that he does, it's unfortunately or fortunately way faster than RGI. He gets stuff back to you within a week or two at best. I've never had to wait that long, but I know he says he likes to keep his wait times down to that amount in that time.
Yeah.
Like the longest I had to wait, I want to say, I think has been a week. And that's only because he had to send out the shed for sequencing and then he got it back and then he ran the test. And he actually gave me some amazing news because I have a hypo clown pied male that proved het for ultramel, which is
wow.
Yeah, it's like, that's huge. Like it's really like a huge, like positive test. I had a bunch of other stuff prove negative with him. So I guess he owed me one. Right?
Yeah. Right.
But the turnaround time is great. I mean, I just got a shed test back from RGI for my pied possible het sunset. And according to their test, he's not het for sunset, which is very disappointing.
Right.
Because I got like an 11 egg clutch from a pinstripe het sunset, and he bred a Candino Enchi pied, and he bred a Candino pied, because I was hoping that I'd have just a metric ton of pieds that I could test for sunset.
Right.
So I'm hoping that they're wrong. But if they are wrong, it kind of puts me in a bad, it's like, then it puts a little bit of doubt on the test period, right?
Right.
So,
yeah. It undermines the whole philosophy or the whole concept.
So I'm expecting to not hit anything but normals and pinstripes, and then I'll test the females for sunset, which means they're going to get another $65 a pop for sunset, which, whatever. I played a stupid game and I won a stupid prize. I now have to pay for extra shed testings to do that stuff. But
yeah, I mean, you talk a 10 or 11 egg clutch, and that goes back to some of the overhead stuff too. Like, man, there's just
but imagine if I hit like 5 or 6 sunsets that were 100% het pied.
I would,
you know what I mean?
I would test every one of them every time. Yeah, I would not. I'm not talking you out of that.
Oh no, I'm saying like, because it was a pied possible het sunset to a pinstripe het sunset. So there was potential to produce visual sunsets het for pied.
Oh, I see. Okay.
If he proved out. So it could have been a very amazing situation.
Right.
Which actually reminds me too, what actually brought, because I know you mentioned it in the intro of the show. What got us talking initially was some of your earlier podcasts. You were like aggressively risk adverse.
Oh yeah. Oh,
and then I like had to talk to you and be like, dude, like, what are you doing? Like, you need to be like, you don't need to like sell the farm, but you need to put some oomph. Like, I mean, like we got that hypo clown pied male, he was not inexpensive and he proved het for ultramel. So his value like went up like an insane amount.
Right.
Not only monetarily, but within the actual use of my collection.
Yeah, I've gotten that speech from a number of people. My outlook is and this is just, and I think I've covered this a number of times, but I think Will Moreau's put it the best, to grow into business rather than go into it. I didn't have the resources, or I wasn't willing to spend the resources. I dropping $3,000 or $4,000 on something that at the time was an unproven concept. To me, it was unproven. Obviously, the industry was proven, and that sort of thing was just something I couldn't do. And I still would have misgivings about it. I'd think about it. I've got a couple of those in that caliber now, but it's still tough for me, man. And like,
oh no, it is. Yeah.
And people are doing great. Justin in the audience. I mean, Justin, I work closely with him in Jacksonville. His investments are phenomenal. What he's going to be blowing me out of the water in 2 years. But I just, like I say, I didn't have those upfront resources. Now, this year's a different story, and now I'm investing in infrastructure. But for what I could put into some of these snakes that I see in the chats are what is outfitting that whole room. I can get a lot of labor done for $3,000 or $5,000, man.
Oh yeah. And that goes back to like just, you know, to go back into like the breeding plans and breeding strategy and whatever, you know, and I think a lot of that comes into your level of risk you're willing to take.
Yeah.
And I, fortunately or unfortunately, I'm willing to roll them dice. So
man.
We're going to figure it out. And
you do.
You know, so like I paid a pretty good amount of money and I got some double het monsoon things from Brock this season.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And so a couple of those things, like I plan on using, you know, like not that it's the best male, but it's the one that was available. Well, it was technically the pair that's available, which is actually completely useless together.
Oh,
but it's a monsoon. Yep, I got you.
Give me just 1 second, guys. Sorry, audience. Just 1 second.
Is now the time that I sabotage Adam's entire show.
Talk. It's okay. You're gonna come back tomorrow.
Yes.
What time is tomorrow evening?
Yes, evening.
Okay.
We're gonna get done tomorrow.
Okay, cool. Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks, guys.
Bet you're happy you put on pants before you started the show.
It would have been really awkward if I didn't have pants on. Yeah, it'd be that. Well, and even more awkward because I don't have a tablecloth in front of the table, so the guys would have been just watching the whole time. You know.
But yeah, so back to the stuff with Brock. So it's like I picked up a pair of Mojave Spider. So probably not like Spider. Mojave and Monsoon is actually pretty awesome, but they're both Mojave and both Spider double het for Desert Ghost Monsoon. So I can't breed them together.
Right. Yeah, that's not going to do you any good.
With genetic testing and whatever else, my thought and idea was to basically take that male to a Desert Ghost type female, produce a Desert Ghost male that hopefully proves het for Monsoon. And now I've kind of narrowed my odds to 1 in 8. So there's a lot of hope going on there, you know, so, but regardless, whatever Desert Ghosts I make, male or female, they would be worth holding back to test for Monsoon, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And then, you know, so likewise, I also have a double het Monsoon pied that I plan on taking to various pied type females. You know, maybe they carry codominant genes, maybe they carry other recessive genes. I mean, we'll see what happens when we get there. But I'm going to be able to use that male. I'm going to be able to produce pieds that potentially carry Monsoon. And again, use that to further the collection down the road. And same thing, a double het Monsoon Ultra male that I also got from Brock. So I really do like working with Brock. He has some awesome stuff and some really great projects.
Oh, and on his high end stuff is how do I put this positively? Notoriously value priced as well. Let me play devil's advocate for a minute, or ask you. I don't even know if I believe this question. So just this is for the sake of content, not
personal attacks.
No, not
I know, I'm messing with you.
Yeah, well, you know that's what I'm known for. Is really going after people on this show. We don't have to rehash that whole thing, but say that plan that you have, that's going to be 6-7 years before you see a Monsoon from that in a vacuum from that specific investment. Is that about right? No, it's not right. Correct me.
So I also have a banana special het Monsoon that's growing up. So I don't think I'll be able to breed her this year, but I will be able to breed her next year. Okay. But I also have females for all of those projects, right? So if those males are able to breed, I'm able to produce an ultramel, a Desert Ghost, pied that's het for Monsoon. I'm going to be able to potentially raise that male up, you know, Lord, you know, giving me the wheel here to get to
Right.
wheel that into existence.
Yeah.
I'm going to be able to raise that up within the next, year, hopefully. And then when that female's going in spring of, 2025 or whatever, whenever that female's up to size, not this season, but next season, I'm going to hopefully have an ultramel visual, a het monsoon, a pied het, and a desert ghost het that I'm able to take to these female double hets that I've already been raising up. So in actuality, it's, I'm within 18 months of producing hopefully some pied ultramel and desert ghost monsoons.
Okay.
If things shake out.
Yeah. Okay. I take back my, the theme or the spirit of my question was going to be, which you've actually eliminated, you wiped that off. The spirit of my question was going to be, in a vacuum, which you had far more going on rather than just those couple animals that you described, was going to be, if it takes somebody 6 years to make a monsoon from hets, possible hets, genetic testing, you got a male, but you got to wait for a female, and then you need that generational jump. In 6 years, I got to think monsoon's going to be pretty affordable to where you just go buy a visual in 6 years rather than do the work ahead of time. But what you're talking about is overlapping them, talking ultramel monsoons, pied monsoons. You got double visuals. That's a whole different story than what my argument, than the spirit of my question was leading to then. So it's a little different thing.
Even if let's just say you started with a het monsoon, which you could get for a pretty reasonable value right now, right? Let's just say if you were to get just a het monsoon male and breed that to like I love having just base girls, which I still have, and I plan on using this year for those reasons.
Yeah.
Like I have 3 regular ultramel females. I'm going to take a puzzle to one of them this year. I have, I'm going to take a paint to another different female this year. I already have the double head ultramel paints coming up from a breeding loan that I did with Sal, who we did that charity auction recently.
Yes.
So we had a breeding loan this last season. But let's just say that you just get like a het male. You could take that male to all these base girls that you have. If you have like a hypo, if you have a desert ghost, if you have a lavender albino, a candy, if you have any of these very affordable base genetic females, you could take that male to. You're going to make double hets. You're going to.
Right. Yeah. Should be half of them. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're making all het ultramel, all het desert ghost, all het exantic, all het whatever that are 50% het for monsoon. You can raise all those girls up. Genetic testing for monsoon is supposed to be out within the next 3 months. So you'll ideally be in a really good spot. That's funny.
Jason, thank you for the kind donation, man. It's good doing business with you this week, and I appreciate it. This will that'll hang that'll get a sheet of sheetrock up. Well, I won't get it installed. It'll get it purchased though. So thank you very much is what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to make
my fiance always says put it all on black or red or whatever, because that's her idea for roulette. I'm more of a number picker than I am a red or black. I'll pick the numbers because the payout's better. You're not just doubling your money.
Yeah. I love playing poker, but otherwise I'm not intrigued by gambling or the casino.
No, it makes me sick.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because I'm very not risk adverse with the snakes, but actual gambling makes me nauseous.
Oh yeah. That's if I don't have some control of the outcome, which I probably lie to myself on poker because there's a little bit of skill involved. I don't like to gamble. I don't gamble on sports. And that's huge. It's one of the biggest blowing up industries in the world right now, or in America anyway, but just doesn't do it for me. I'm a pretty reserved investor as well. I'm an active investor, but I'm pretty reserved in what I invest in.
See, and that is kind of how I look at the snakes to a degree. I really enjoy the colors, I enjoy the patterns, but I definitely look at it in a sense of like, I mean, obviously it's an investment, right? And you have to pick the right chips, so it's like you have to pick the right projects. You have to have enough foresight to kind of figure out like what you need to do, what you want to do. And I talk way too much. What you had like a scale of like PG-13 and all that stuff. So we're allowed one. So you have to pick the shit to choose. You know what I mean? You have to pick the right ones. And
I messed up the quote. It's you get 2 S's, 1 F, a martini, and a cigarette. And that was like the joke of like a day in Vegas, like you get.
Yeah. Wasn't it on your little proper cup of Joe thing like the other day you were talking about?
Yeah, that was with Joe the other morning. Yeah.
But yeah, so it's like you really have to kind of pick the right things. And, I was telling like a couple of friends like 2 years ago when everybody was getting their panties in a bunch about the DG clowns, and they're beautiful. I recently got a clown het DG from Bob, and it's an awesome animal, and I don't regret getting it whatsoever because just the situation and, and all that. And I like that I have it, but I am very happy that I didn't get it a year or two ago and everybody was losing their minds because the prices dropped so fast because nobody put any extra genetics in it. And that's the thing that I think like a lot of people really need to focus on is you cannot just like Desert Ghost Xanthic is going to be the same situation, right? So learn from mistakes from these last 18 months. Like if you're just going to make straight DG Xanthics, you're going to be up for a bad time. Like it's not going to be a good time for you in 2 years because a lot of DG Xanthics are going to be made. The base price of a DG Xanthic is going to go lower. But if you have good co-dominant genes that make sense, that then you're going to be in a much better, position, and it's.
I did set the table for us staring into our crystal balls. So time will tell, but I do agree with.
I brought this up.
Yeah, well, and I agree with the adding in the codoms and trying to get ahead on it. But I would make the argument that we're seeing the same and guys, put away your bows and arrows here or tomatoes or whatever you throw through. I would make the same argument on Sunset. I mean, it's a recessive just like anything else is. And with enough people working and enough of them flying around in the next year or two, I'm not saying they're not worthwhile. They're going to be I think they're going to be at a similar price as maybe not in a year, 2 to 3 years. I think they'll be at a similar price as higher end clowns. And amazing. I still marvel at, like, among all things, clowns still move. It's unbelievable. The pieds kind of move, but high end clowns are still gain massive amounts of money. And maybe to your point, it's the cool codom combos that have been figured out that really drive the clown market. But now we can layer a Xanthic on top, or to your point, DG on top. So I'm curious to see what happens with Sunset that way. I'm probably close to a point where I'll probably start picking up some het Sunsets, and ideally double het, something or others. I think I'm about comfortable enough on it, and I've seen enough stuff that makes me feel cool about it too. Plus, I got to really like it. Like, I never loved DG. I know that's not popular, but that's why I'm not in DG.
I like hypo more than DG personally.
I love hypo. I got too much hypo.
But just because Steven will fight me if I don't defend Sunset's honor.
Defend it.
And I will defend all of the honor for Sunset. So I disagree with you on price. Right.
Okay.
So last year I did pretty well with all of my Sunset stuff. I mean, that was the bulk of my sales in general, for Sunsets, and every one of them went for 4,000 or more. Right.
Yeah. Right. So now
that's pretty solid.
I'd love to be having hatchling Sunsets right now. By all means, I'm saying there's the inevitable. Okay.
So, so this year, right, like I imagine that they're going to be like in the $3,500 to $3,000 range. And then next year, they're probably going to go down a little bit more than that. I imagine basically it's going to be a $500 to $750 drop per year for a while. And then I think once they hit the $1,000 range, they're going to stay there for a very long time, because that's what happened to clowns. The only reason why clowns are now like really low, like in the $200 to $300 range for a normal clown, is because they've been around for like a long ass time. And on top of that, like everybody is producing clowns. I don't have a lot of clowns. I've picked up clowns recently because I realized that I was, one, insufficient in it, but then there are things that I very specifically want to get, you know, into clown, you know, like for specific projects that I'm interested in. Like the hypo clown that was in my reel the other day, like she's awesome. You know, it's like, so I recently picked up a couple of clowns within the past like year for those reasons, because I was insufficient in clown. I'm more proficient in pied. Like I have way more pieds because they're just awesome. They're just so nice looking. But overall, I think like there is a mass production of clowns.
Oh, it's a huge production of it.
And the bigger problem with the clown, like, so if you go into Morph Market right now, there's literally thousands of clowns available.
Mm-hmm.
There's less than 50 sunsets available. So it's going to be a very, very long time before there's that many sunsets available.
Yeah, I don't think I'm not saying it'll be at the level of clown. I'm just saying I think that there's a point where the price meets where its value. It's sort of the upside down intersection, and I think
that'll be in like the $1,000 to $1,500 range, but it's not going to get there for a good probably 4 or 5 years, I would bet.
My own opinion, I'm going to take the under on that. I've seen what happened to, say, the dreamsicles, which are tougher to make than sunsets. I saw today you can get a female dreamsicle these days for $1,000, which is.
But how long have the dreamsicles been around? They've been produced since 2002.
Sure, I get that part, but what, 3 years ago they were still going for $3,500. I mean,
I bought a yellow belly dreamsicle from Justin, a male, for $3,250. I think 2-3 years ago.
All right, so that's not that
far. And at the time, they were a regular dreamsicle. I think was $2,200 roughly, roundabouts.
Gotcha.
So it did drop quite a bit, and I do agree. And I think that, you know, in general, you're definitely correct. But before that, they held a high price for a very long time. And a lot of that comes down to accessibility, right? So there's not a lot of people that are like, so if you were to get into sunset personally, I would say to get a male. And the reason why is because you can do the same exact thing that I did. I got my male sunset and I bred him to a bunch of my females, and I made a bunch of co-dominant hets that I liked. And I bred him to a bunch of recessive females that I liked, so I could make my own double hets, because there's a lot more value in that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so unless, you know, like I held back 3 visual sunset females last year. And that's because whenever there's a really cool co-dom, you know, het sunset male that's available, or one that I produce, I want to have visuals that I could take that het male to immediately and produce a sunset co-dom to take back to the females that I made to try and make the super form of those things.
Well, and I think so. Maybe let me take sunset specific gene out. I think with any recessive, that's a good plan, especially if we can look at the long term. And
no, totally, yeah.
And beast morphs, look, I get the math. I'm not saying any of us shouldn't be doing any of
you picked the wrong fight.
I know. I picked the wrong fight.
Steven's like hairs are probably standing up on the back of his neck for unknown reasons.
Oh, he's already unsubscribed to me. I'm gone in his world. It'll be yeah. Now and it's a really good point to be made though. As the price drops, we're producing 6x the volume. So it is driving the price down, but you're getting your return as that price goes down, because if you pay, you know, and when I say
there's more
6X,
customers at $1,000 than there is $4,000.
yes, you can. That is another part of my argument too. How many people are there that are going to buy them at $4,000? That market's going to get sucked up pretty quick. So there are benefits to it coming down too. If you could produce 25 sunsets a year at 1,000 a piece, you're probably pretty happy.
But that's not the business model that I personally will do. That's like a, you know, Mike Wilbanks kind of situation.
Right. Yeah.
And he also drastically like undercuts his own prices and has all these like buy one, get one and 50% off sales. And, you know, if you watch Steven's recent video on pricing, it's like, personally, that's not like where I would want to be.
Right.
I would much rather give discounts to people that I know or have a good friendship with or whatever, to like help them get into an animal that they really like or want to be able to pursue the projects that they like. But me personally, so this year, or last year rather, was the last year that my sunset male is going to breed. Outside of a fluke every once in a while, let him get his rocks off, you know? Like, he's retired now, and I have no intention of selling him. He's just retired. He's just going to hang out. Maybe I'll get like one of those little dubia roaches cages for him and put him out in the living room. I don't know.
Okay.
Just let him just live out his dream, because now I have a sunset for hypo that I got from Brock.
Right.
And guess what? I'm going to use that animal for 1 year, maybe 2, until I can produce a visual sunset hypo male, and then he's going to move along. So there are people that I think, if they're trying to structure their business correctly, like there's no correct way to do it, right?
Yeah.
But if they're conscientious of their customers and the people that have purchased and had faith in them to be able to get them into these projects, like there's no reason for me to be competing with the people that purchase sunsets from me or het sunsets from me. There's no reason. I do not need to be there selling regular sunsets unless I miss on something to compete with people that have purchased stuff from me. Like, they need to be able to make their money. Like, and that's the thing that I love so much about like Brock, is that I've been able to produce with my sunsets, and I've upgraded my sunset male. And, you know, outside, like, Brock is still producing sunsets, but he's like, they just produced a sunset clown pied, him and Brad Boa, like, they're progressing their stuff. So it's like they're a competition because they're within the same project, but it's not like we're trying to sell the same apples. You know what I mean? That's the way I look at it anyway. I just feel like by moving out that stuff and me not trying to actively produce regular sunsets, that I'm basically,
there's downward momentum. I'm not rooting against anything. I think this is what happens to any gene. I don't think it's sunset specific. I'm not saying that.
Oh, I know. I was talking in generalities too, though. Like, as far as just, other projects, and sunset's the one that I'm most developed in, as far as like progressing my own thing. Like, there's plenty of other stuff that I do plan on doing, and a couple of things that I'm definitely going to be working on kind of behind the scenes. And then whenever those things come out, that's when they come out, But
I'm definitely phrasing. I don't think it's a bust. I think it'll be accessible and affordable is what I'm saying.
Totally.
Yeah. And I think you get it. I want to make sure everybody in the audience gets it. I was remiss. Kelly just dropped $20, dude. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate you, Kelly. Thank you. Come see me in Tinley. We'll hang out a little bit, man. I appreciate it. Thank you very, very kindly for that. So the theme that I hear from a philosophical standpoint, though, is, which I think we all hear a lot in a really macro way, is don't stand still. Make sure that we're adding more in every year. So
I got onto a buddy of mine the other day about that.
Yeah. Because
he, I've mentioned him to you before. But he was very successful in boas. He was very successful in ball pythons. He still, has those things. And, for a while there, he was talking about like his, Enchi pieds and stuff he was making. And it's like, and he just kept making them, and he just kept making them, and he just kept making them, and he just kept selling them. He hadn't really added anything new to his projects. And, he was talking about Pete the other weekend, which I know he's a hot topic in the podcast world here, for his digressions.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, serious ones. Yeah.
But yeah, so it's, one of those situations where, he was blowing out and I remember he was telling me that he pissed off a lot of people because one year he posted, 100.100 like pieds, like here's 100 males, here's 100 females. And then right after that, the value like shot down on like pieds, because it's like, dude, it's like, it's one thing to for supply and demand. But when you're literally putting it out there that you as one individual have, 200 of these things when they're like tens of thousands of dollars, like why, I don't know. It's just crazy. But it's like, that's the thing is Pete, I think towards the end of his situation was not adding new things. He wasn't trying to revolutionize. And I feel like this day and age, you get in at different levels and then you learn from the people that are above you, that are basically pushing the envelope, that are adding new things in, that are putting new things in, and you're going to push. Like, there's not a reason for me to repeat a pairing that I did last year. Like there's no reason for me to make the same thing twice. It's like you try and progress and you try and add something new that gets you closer to whatever your eventual end result is, or at least the point that you want to kind of have as a nice new base.
Yeah, I philosophically I agree 100% on that. I guess my only slight hesitation would be if I miss something in a pairing this year that I really feel valuable, or say I produce a killer base of either a double or a triple het. If I'm waiting for something to grow up, I'll do that again. Yeah. So like I have 2 or 3 years of Ultra Male Clown double het holdbacks. Only because I didn't have
chilling once you get that Ultra Clown male or whatever, like you'll be set.
I got it. I'm ready.
Yeah.
I got it. This is the year. I'm ready, man. Well, I got the Clown Het Ultra Male, so I won't be doing double het to double het. I'm a little bit better than that this year, but
like I did my leopard clown het pied male, which isn't like a great male. He produces some amazing leopard babies though. Like the quality of the leopards he produces is so nice. But last year I missed on the banana lesser fire clown, which is what I really wanted to make because the female just looks awesome. Like she's like a blonde, like cream color with like white, like alien heads.
Yeah, they are.
She's a beautiful snake. So I was very disappointed that I missed the clown version of that last year. Yeah. So I did put that male back together, and I ended up producing a banana fire lesser leopard clown female, which is awesome because it's like that's a female that I'm definitely going to be keeping and holding on.
Mine tingle too.
Are you sure? Are you sure your ears tingle or your pants get tighter?
Yeah, your ears do weird things, Herbert. Yeah, I've been working at that one for a long time. I'm excited.
It's such an awesome project, and this year is not my year. Well, kind of, I guess. So there are just for because I know we're obviously talking about the whatever fancy P word that you were using for your
philosophical.
Philosophical. Yeah, the fancy one. There are definitely like a strategy of like things I want to do and things I want to make that's like 6 years down the road, that's going to be like the end result. But there's other things that I'm like, okay, this will be much sooner, but there's like 100% stuff that is a no-brainer for production this year. Mm-hmm. And one of those is an animal that I got from Sal, and that's a chocolate clown male that I'm breeding to a chocolate ultra male female. Oh, because cool. I want to make super chocolates double het for ultra male clown.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because those are going to be just stupid. Like they're going to be so nice. Like just unbelievably nice, those things. Like they have to be.
They will be nice. And I think that example you just gave still brings it all the way back to the end of the day. I think we still have to breed what we're passionate about. Like otherwise it first, it's not exciting and we're not going to work as hard at it. But secondly, to your point about, whatever Pete Call was doing, or if we get stagnant and we just breed the same things over and over again, and to my point, while the prices on any given combo over time are going to go down, if you're not breeding what you're passionate about and excited to discover, all of those things are going to conspire against us or to conspire against the individual. And in my opinion, drive them out. But that would be my long-term philosophy. I think the ups and downs of the market will come and go. I think we'll have misses, even if they're singular sunsets that somebody will buy, and I didn't read the whole thing, but Beefsmorph's comments here is still cool. He's right. I mean, this year, my average price on an animal that I've sold, and it's been very solid, I think, and I haven't wholesaled anything yet, so this will come down, but is right at $450. If I could sell $200, $450 animals, I'm happy, man. I'm not saying I won't push harder and find more and keep breeding, but it would relieve the pressure of what do I think I need to make to sell, or how do I make ends meet on whatever sales or sponsorships or Tuesday night shows that we rant on. So I think all of that leads to aim for your own highest mark, because even the misses are going to be valuable, and you can make the value at, 200 a click is not easy. It's not glamorous. On the other hand, I know what it takes to make $200 a day in a restaurant, and I'll take this $200 a day glamour over that any day.
So to argue that point very slightly,
okay,
Steven put out a video that went very well, that was basically talking about, the pricing of animals, basically whether you wanted to produce, pet value animals or,
right,
higher tier, higher valued animals.
Correct.
And the amount of work, time, effort, energy, the infrastructure that's required and whatever else to sustain a living of whatever wage that is for you that you would like off of selling animals at $200 a piece would be a lot of infrastructure cost as far as racks, rodents, everything else. So it'd be very expensive to produce those $200 animals.
Well,
that said,
the difference being the plan isn't to produce $200 animals. It's when you get the $200 animals, you still move them.
Oh,
I'm not saying I'm setting out to have.
Oh, I know you're not. I was talking about his comment where he's saying you could just produce $200 animals, and
I think so. But Beast does some pretty high end stuff.
No, he does. Yeah.
Yeah, I suspect he's talking about the misses. Sorry, maybe I'm putting words in his mouth. I interpreted that as you could still do well moving those while you're working on your other bigger stuff. I think, and Steven's point is correct. If one model is I'm going to make high end stuff, and I'm going to make small end stuff, I don't know that I've ever advocated for the small end stuff. That's not my point. I haven't aimed as high as Steven has aimed, but I haven't invested as much, and I haven't taken as much of my money out of other ways that it's making money, and all of those things that, I've talked about for the whole 2 years. Yes, one absent of the other, of course, but I think that the result is you get some of the $200, you get some of the $400, animals as well.
And then Bob's Patreon too, like he's mentioned, like his average animal sale that he has is like $350.
Okay. Wow. Yeah.
Like both online and at the shows, those are the average prices. Now, of course, he will have a $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 animal that sells, right?
Yeah.
But you produce, and that was the biggest reason why. Not that the clowns that I picked up and stuff were inexpensive, because I picked up like Xanthic clown and Hypo clown and stuff like that. They're very beautiful, but for later, whenever I'm breeding clown to clown to produce whatever I'm trying to make, whenever I just produce a beautiful like little Kodam combo clown.
Right on time. Perfect timing. This is good. This is a wonderful time for you to arrive, Steven. We've settled it all. It's good.
But, you know, so it's like if I could produce, and that was the thing that was so nice. So that leopard clown clutch, the leopard lesser clown clutch that I did, like I think I hit like 3 or 4 clowns from a visual to het pairing. Like I produced a banana fire het and then a leopard het, and then everything else is clowns. I think it's 3 or 4 clowns. But it's so nice just seeing like a pile of visuals with like varying codom genetics. It's like Baskin Robbins, you know, it's like there's so many different looks, and it's like, and that's what I like. And that's what I also like about the look of pieds. You know, it's like, I want to change the color of pieds. I want to, you know, change the look of, you know, the different clowns, and just have a nice little variety platter of colors and everything, which is what we all strive for. I mean, really, at the end of the day, we want all the different colors and patterns.
Yeah.
But
I try and like with people, you know, when you get the question, why do you do this, or what's the goal here? And I tell people pattern, color, contrast. You can go for all 3. You could go for one of the 3 and go for 2 of the 3, but it all comes down to really that combination.
It's got to offer some of that stuff. Yeah.
Right. Brandon, we have had a spirited debate for an hour and 46 minutes, and in my temporary location, I have I'm running out of battery. I have no charging here at this desk. So,
well, that'll save us from going 3 hours. So
that's true. Literally, I just got the low battery notice. It's like I said it's like Steven heard sunset, the computer heard low battery. You got how long has it been since you were on? Was it a year that I didn't invite you? We got to do this. I enjoy these shows, man. And the people seem to enjoy it as well.
I'm not sure. Honestly, time just randomly flies by. All of a sudden it's winter again. So who really knows?
Yeah. I don't really have,
it was before last winter, I think, that we spoke, like, you know, this way anyway.
I always give, I give a little bit of a hard time, like I used to do about microphones, and then I succumbed to just putting the microphone in the picture because apparently that's what I need to do. Everybody that numbers all their shows, I'm like, what do you keep a track? Like, is it a trophy that you're like, okay, I don't know, but this would have helped. I could have looked up what number show it was, and you know, we could have extrapolated when you were on. But what I'm saying is, come back again. I look forward to hanging out. I don't think are you going to Tinley or not? Are you? Or you are?
We were on the fence about it, and I think this year, like we were gonna go last year, we went to Daytona. I mean, obviously,
right.
But for me, it's like like Daytona, it offers the beach, which is something that my fiance can enjoy. Like, it offers good weather. Unfortunately, Tinley doesn't offer any of those things. It has
all reptiles, all straight ahead.
It has a very cold lake. And that's pretty much about the extent of it, and a very high crime rate. So I think overall, you know, and you know, it's like, you're not even in Chicago. You're like, I used to live out near Tinley Park. I lived in Lockport, which is like 15 minutes away, you know, and I went to the Tinley show several times when I lived there, and it was a great experience. But overall, like with the racks that I want to get and stuff like that, it's like to offset or negate kind of dipping into other funds and whatever else. It just makes more sense to upgrade infrastructure than spend, you know, $2-3 grand going to a reptile expo, which is, you know, that's just the situation that it is. I would say that chances are we're definitely going to go to Daytona next year because it's a fairly affordable flight. There's really, you know, there's a lot of nice, fun stuff to do down there. I would like to think that we're going to be going to them soon. But my season also went way later, much like everybody else's has.
Yeah, it seems like
all of my good stuff, and I say good, like, you know, some kind of way. It's all the more valuable animals that I'm going to be producing this season are starting to hatch, like, come October.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean?
Too. So, yeah, I do.
Like, I have a trio of sunsets that's in the incubator right now that's, you know, just going through their first shed. You know, cool. It's like, I have GHI tri-stripes, hopefully, like, on the horizon, you know, soon as well. Like, I've got some pretty cool stuff, but unfortunately, all that cool stuff is, you know, coming October, November, which it would have been great to have produced, sold, and been able to use those funds to offset, you know, fun traveling. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
and that's just like a realistic approach, because you know, the shows are great. The networking is great. You can have a lot of these same conversations, you know, through social media or a phone call or whatever
Right.
else without the hangovers involved.
And yeah, and it's still real money too. Brandon, I got to leave it there. Everybody, please check out Brandon NIxon Reptiles. The link, his link tree is down below. Very convenient. Take you all to the places that he is. Thursday morning, Proper Cup of Joe. I'll be on with Joe, and next Tuesday I'll be back, and then it's off to Tinley next weekend, 10 days. So hope to see you all somewhere. Thank you very, very much, Brandon. I appreciate it. We'll do it again soon. I know you and I, we would sit here till midnight, I think, otherwise.
Potentially so.
Probably. Thank you so much. Stick around for just a minute. I'll say goodnight to you right after the show. Cheers, everybody. I'll see you next time. Of course, of course.